Hello, everybody. Welcome to the MBE project. How are you doing, Yolanda?
Hello. I am trying to figure out if I'm in my body or not. Happy Wednesday.
Consensus? Anything? Have we reached anything yet?
No. Well, as you know, I just came back from a 5-day Reiki course, and I just got, finished it yesterday, and hi.
I was just going to say, can you tell us what it feels like for you to be out of your body or to know that you're not in your body? But I think that kind of just explained it.
Yeah, like I can feel my physical body here, but it feels like it literally feels like this energetic impression of me is kind of out there, and my mind is like, woo-doo-doo, like I'm over there. I can tell, like I'm really struggling to, and I should have grounded before we did this, but I didn't, so I'll try as we go. Yeah. How are you today?
I'm just doing great.
Yeah?
Yeah. Just rolling with the forces that are out there.
I like your cheetah print.
Thank you. This is my favorite house sweater.
Oh.
It doesn't go outside of the house much, but it's so cozy.
Oh, it's cute.
It's a little weird, but I'm weird, so I'm cool with it.
Well, before we get started, I have to tell you, I was thinking how fun it is that we're doing these weekly readings now for our patrons. And I thought of you because the reading that I did for this week, and for those of you who don't know yet, Tiffany and I, we alternate weeks. So one week I do the reading, the next week she does the reading, and it's just to support us all and give us some, just some things to think about for the week ahead. And I used
focus.
Yeah, and the deck I use this week is the chakra deck. It's called Chakra Wisdom Oracle. Yeah. But I thought of you, and I was like, oh, I wonder if she has this deck since you're the chakra.
Talking about chakras every day.
Yeah.
Taking us through a journey.
Do you have it?
What?
This deck.
No.
Well, the woman that created this deck, she just literally last week just released a new deck, and I haven't got to really play with it yet. We're not getting paid for this endorsement.
Yeah.
It made me think of Tiffany. This is not a plug or commercial, no. But she just created a tarot deck based on the chakras. So
very cool.
Yeah. So I thought of you with that too.
I have that idea in mind. It'll be a little different than that, but
yeah.
Mind your chakras down the line when I have people that I can hire to help me.
You have a team?
Yeah, a team, exactly.
Well, you may want to look at it or look at her videos. I mean, I think you'll like it. So anyway, on to today's show.
Yeah.
Oh, hopefully everyone had a lovely weekend. We're already halfway.
Like it's been a while since we've done this.
It does.
Today's Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday. It feels like Monday for me though, because of being in the class for 5 days. So I'm clearly confused. So what are we talking about today, Tiffy?
Today we are talking about convenient spirituality.
Convenient spirituality. Yeah. Can you explain that a bit?
I would love to. So convenient spirituality, as I perceive it, is when it's easy to apply our spiritual practices, and also when we don't apply them, when we're not taking those practices and principles and applying them to the hard parts of life, or when we're feeling not at our best and we just decide to put that spirituality on a shelf and not apply the principles because for whatever reason we're conditioned this other way.
Yeah.
Right.
So being in our practice, are we really living into our spiritual practice, or are we just
are we just pervasively applying these principles that we're actively learning? Are they coming with us all the time?
Yeah.
I hear in yoga all the time in classes, teachers are always like, yoga class feels so good in what you're doing, and then they say, take this, everything that you've learned on your mat, take it off of your mat. But how often are we applying that? Because it's more than just stretching. You're not going to be walking around on the sidewalk and stretching, or at work you might be, but you get what I'm meaning.
Yeah, I do. And I think it's interesting because a lot of the spiritual, I guess you would say catchphrases.
Mm-hmm.
They're beautiful in theory, and so I could see why so many of us, like, will hear certain things, not even just in the spirituality. Like, people will post memes, or like people post quotes or whatever, just all kinds of things, and we're like, yeah, because it feels good. Like, we resonate with what it is. Whether or not we display that is a whole nother story. But I think there's like, all of us inherently probably, like, we want to be like, live from our highest potential, right? Like, I think no one, like, in the higher aspect of them, wants to be pissed off, angry, stressed, and rude, and like, so the idea of like, be kind, like, yeah, we would love to be, and we would like it if other people were too. But I think we get caught in the, well, I'm not, how could I be when I'm surrounded by jerks? Right?
Yeah, totally.
So, okay. So
well, so when you say resonate, that resonates with me, but like, we resonate with this idea of spirituality because I think that is the true essence of our nature, and that higher place to tap into it. So once we do, it becomes this blissful thing that we do want to wear on our t-shirts and be like, I've touched this, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, but then we forget about it because, like I said earlier, our conditioned responses to our past experiences. But why it's convenient versus inconvenient is because it becomes inconvenient because our experiences have conditioned us one way, and to have pervasive spirituality and constant application of that feel good essence takes work. And that's the point in between those two places. The work is what actually makes it last.
Well, just backing up a bit too, like, hearing you say that, it makes me think of, in a lot of ways, we've been taught to retaliate. You know what I mean? So, for example, like, say if you're a little kid, and of course kids are sweet, they're so cute, like, yeah. But like, say if, like, when you're little and the first time someone hits you, and instead of like being taught to respond, I don't know, however, I can't think of an example right now, but you may have been told, like, no, you don't take that. You go out there and you knock them out, for you push them back, or you blah, 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 you know? So it kind of speaks to, it's making me think of, like, again, like, yes, I think inherently, of course, we want to be kind. We want everyone to be kind. But if you've been from a very long age taught that standing up for yourself, or being strong, or like not letting people walk over you, means that you have to respond or react to things in a way that's not kind. Do you see what I mean? Like, kind of like fighting fire with fire, or an eye for an eye. Like, we've literally, in a lot of ways, like, that's what our society embeds in us, right? I could see, like, why it's challenging. So anyway, so I know we wanted to talk about, well, how do we identify this in ourselves? Like, if we are in practice, and if we are having challenges with it, how do we recondition ourselves, or really do start to try to be kind, or be light and love, or see the divine in other people? Yeah, it's great to say, but it will take some effort.
Yeah.
So
before we even go down that path, can I plug something in from what you just said?
Yeah.
Because you know me, I'm always trying to disassemble the information.
I saw you taking notes over there.
When you're saying that we're taught to retaliate, I think, yes, we're taught to retaliate, but also that's the problem with the flesh, right? The biologically, in order to survive, if something hits us, our retaliation is our fight or flight system. You know, we're either going to hit somebody or run away, rather than sit and be like, oh, why did you do that? I love you anyways. Like, let's take care of this. You know, it's, we've talked about our ego versus higher self, and kind of like the spirit inhabiting this meat suit of our humanness. And it's that in between space that, like, trying to reconcile the two. You know, we want to do good, and we want to see why that person hit me, and be like, I'm so sorry you're going through something, and that's how you acted out. Like, let's talk about it. But the reality is like, I gotta protect this house too, and if you hit me, I'm gonna hit you back. And we've seen
But I don't
more.
think that's not necessarily a natural response though. Like I don't
No.
because like a little kid, like if you've ever seen a kid, like little kids, like someone will shove them and then they're like, ah, they just cry. They don't push back necessarily. They like shut down and cry because they can't believe someone did that to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I'm like a little kid in a lot of ways.
And then someone tells them, oh, you pushed them back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So anyway, so what about you though? Like in this, like when you came into all of this, and I know it's something you've studied and explored for a long time, but even if we go with like some of the popular phrases, right? So either be love or be kind or namaste or be still, any of those.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever have a point where you did like, where you're like, yeah, namaste, but you genuinely felt that you were connected to that? But if you look hindsight, like, were you really not? Has there ever been anything you were like caught up in the idea of, but you weren't necessarily living?
Not anything off the top of my head that I can recall that I like had been swept up in something for so long, because I'm constantly questioning things. And to be honest, I'm a little bit cynical.
Mm-hmm. A
So
little bit.
before I okay. That's truth. That's a truth bomb.
I love you.
That's fair.
I love you.
I know you do. I know you do. And I love that you can call me out and I can accept it.
Oh, you do too, honey. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Great.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. It's true. I'm a lot cynical. That's my protective mechanism. So I sometimes when I overhear something, I don't trust it, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. So then I don't. And then that's when I start to explore it and really like dive deep into trying to understand it and then figure out if I'm going to use it. For example, I'm not sure I've ever used the acronym LOL. I laugh out loud all the time, but when somebody sends me something, I do ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
Because LOL just became like overused, and I'm like, are you really laughing out loud, or is that just convenient? Because it's so that you get your message across. It's convenient, so that everybody's using, but like, are you really laughing out loud?
Mm-hmm.
That's just the type of person I am. However, I will say that there have been times like, I mean, this is the work we do, right? Like I understand what namaste means, and I say it at the end of my classes, and I truly mean it to my students and to my teachers and to other people practicing. Do I use namaste out in the real world? Not usually, but do I want to be living that? Yes. Am I living that out in the real world all the time? Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Do I catch myself? I try to. There's times that I catch myself when I don't want to catch myself. So I'll catch myself, but I'll still lean into the bullshit that I'm spewing, because I'm just like, I want to be deflective today and I don't want to pay attention to my spirituality because I want this anger or sadness or whatever it is to be expressed.
Even though that pattern says we're so dissimilar, I'm going to say we're very alike in this one in particular, because namaste was probably the biggest one for me, because I never even like heard it until I went to yoga, and it was a while before I even knew what the translation was. I was like, namaste, I don't even know what these people are saying. So by the time when I found out what it was, once I knew what it meant, and I was like, okay, so it's this idea of like the divine essence in me acknowledges that same divine essence in you. Then I got uncomfortable when people would say it to me, because there was this expectation to say it back. And at that point, I didn't even really know what that meant. I was like, divine essence in you. Like, you know what I mean? Because I hadn't gone that far into my practice yet, so I didn't get it. And I really didn't like that there was this expectation to say this thing that I really didn't know, right? So I would just be like, oh, thank you. Because listen, I'm not just throwing words around, and I don't really it's intentional. So I didn't want to lie. Right.
Yeah.
So,
then they're looking, I don't see it.
Yeah. I was like, I don't get it. What does that mean? I see Betty in front of me. I don't know. And so, then once I started going deeper into my practice, I was like, oh, okay. And once I started, in meditation and energy work, like feeling that essence in myself, and then starting to understand, like seeing what's beneath the surface of all of our stuff in layers, that it became that thing that made me accountable to my judgments, right? So then if I was interacting with someone or just saw someone on the street and my mind went to a thought or a criticism, right? Or something like that, then I would catch myself with like, oh, girl, you know about Namaste. Like, are you seeing the divine in them? Because if you're not even seeing it in you. So it would be this whole internal dialogue that was triggered by the spiritual idea. But it's still, even now, I mean, years later, is something that I still am like working on, but it's totally not consistent. I would be freaking lying if I was like, yeah, I just walk around seeing the divine in people all the time. Like, yes, I know it's there, but they still trigger me, aggravate me, all kinds of things. My criticisms still come up. But the gift of it, I guess, that it's been for me is because I have that awareness, I can check myself. And I'm very honest with myself, and I can use that to keep trying to, yeah.
And that's the consistent work. And I think that's maybe why spirituality becomes convenient, is because when we catch ourselves, it is that effort. Like you said, when you said that word earlier, I'm like, that's the word, that's the key word, the effort, because we get caught in these patterns that we've just become attuned to. And then to break patterns is very challenging, as everybody knows. Right. And we get in this pattern. Like if you're starting to really lean into your practice and really try to apply it, then that's going to keep popping up to be like, oh, you need to change the behavior, put in more effort. And that gets exhausting. But it's also the effort of revisiting why this practice is important. And that's almost semi-fleeting in a sense too, because it is such an amazing feeling. And it's almost, I mean, there's probably a ton of other reasons as to why we don't come back to this. Like it feels so amazing. I'm not applying it, and I'm guilty of it too. I started a meditation practice specifically for one thing last week, and it was feeling great. And I did it hardcore for 3 days. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be the ticket. I haven't done it in 3 days. And I was thinking about that this morning. I was like, why you put yourself on that track, and you know how good it felt, but yet you are, I am very flagrantly disregarding it the past 2 days, and I'm acknowledging that, and I'm still not doing it, and it's like, God, so now I have to do the self-evaluation of why aren't you prioritizing that, and I'll even catch myself doing other things where it's like, now's the time you can be doing that. Why are you doing this other thing? Yeah. Answering to myself. Yep. Essentially,
And I think that's the beauty of this work, is it does make you have to answer to you. And it's no longer like, oh, because of out there. Like the finger pointing really starts to fall away, because you're like, girl, like you're the one that has a choice in like how you're responding. Like even with what you're going through in this meditation thing, like you could end up judging yourself about it, So it's like there's so many layers of like things that just give us these opportunities to truly work through this stuff. Like be kind, right? Are you being kind to yourself in this? Right. And now that we're saying, it reminds me of the Reiki principles and how, you could just say like, oh, be free from anger, be free from worry. Yeah, I'm grateful. Yeah, I'm diligent in my spiritual practice, and I'm kind. Like it's great. It's like, oh, again, great ideas, but like to really attempt to live into those things, man.
And that's kind of partially the idea of this topic today too, is convenience lends itself to not being comprehensive. So if you're comprehensively focusing on being kind, we automatically think about just being kind to people or animals or the earth. But are you being kind to yourself? Right. Then it's a complete comprehensive loop.
Oh, but wait, not only being kind to yourself, but even with what you said, not making distinctions of which people or which animals or which like if you're going to be kind, that goes across the board. Like you don't get to like pick and choose. Right. Like I'm only going to be kind to these people over here, not the ones I disagree with. What? Yeah.
And compartmentalizing. Yes. And I had this thought the other day. Practice. I've been It seems that when I'm cooking, things just like flooded. The floodgates are open when I've been cooking lately, and I got a message that was like, "Do right." I put this on my Instagram story, but it was "Do right by all,
Mm-hmm.
even those who do you wrong, because they're the ones that need the example the most."
Mm-hmm.
Then it was followed up with, "Also, that's their karma, and you don't need that shit." So
You needed to see, this is why I can't.
I know I didn't need to say that part, but I wanted
You
to
are
because
so funny.
I
Yeah.
wasn't fully in my practice.
But
I thought,
that's really the truth. And like those are the biggest like real tests of our practice, right? Especially when it's like we could try to justify like why I'm not being kind, but it's like either you are or you're not.
right,
And again, it comes back to this personal thing of like, why do you feel that you shouldn't be, or
right.
why are you trying to make reason to not be? It's all you um,
That
that's
is a
accountable to that.
right. That's spotlighting what our triggers are.
Yeah, totally.
And our triggers are our work, and our work is where the effort lies, and that's what makes it challenging.
So it might be interesting for people to like write down some of these like spiritual catchphrases as they've become, even though
Yeah.
they're so much more than that, but that's what they've become.
Uh-huh.
And really think about like, do you live into this practice or this principle? If you are someone that does Reiki, write down the Reiki principles and think like, do I practice this? Do I practice these things? Or if it is like the be kind, light, and love, like what does that look like? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, do you practice that? Are you practicing light and
Yeah.
love, or is it just a nice signature on your email? Like, really ask yourself the truth, because if it resonates with you enough that you would wear it on a t-shirt, or if it resonates with you enough that you would say it is like, just part of your general conversation, there must be some part of you that really does want to live into that experience. But
Yeah.
you will only know if you are as if you're honest with yourself about it.
And I think it's important to check back in with it too, because yeah, maybe you are really good at living those things, or maybe either one of us are really good at living it, and we put it into practice and it just becomes this practice.
Mhm.
But just like our conditioned behaviors that aren't so pretty that we're trying to break, this pretty practice, like maybe it looks great and you're actually living it constantly. There's still a point where we do evolve into a deeper level of something. And what?
No, when you're saying pretty practice, I was like, oh, she have a
Oh.
t-shirt that says ugly practice.
Yeah, it says it upside down. When I go
Yeah.
upside down, it says ugly practice.
Yeah.
Um, so the idea that like, yeah, we have this pretty practice. I mean, we're living it, but is there a depth to it that you could go deeper because now you have evolved to a point?
Right.
Like, could you push that idea even further and make it even more beautiful and resonant to not only yourself, but other people as well?
And I think that's probably something we should highlight in this. I mean, we said it a moment ago, but really to say it's so important not to judge yourself in the process. Because I think that's a lot with like, even like the spiritual bypassing, right? Like people will internally beat themselves up. Like if they're saying like, yes, I'm light and love, and yes, I'm spiritual, but inside they're mad and they're sad and they're angry and they're all kinds of things, but they feel like they can't admit it because then they're not being spiritual, right? But it's like part of the practice is non-judgment. And so, and just like we've talked about through this whole thing, this stuff takes effort. And of course you're going to be triggered. And of course you're going to have moments where you want to respond not in kindness. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but can you in those moments acknowledge your actual behavior and acknowledge your response and see like, how could I have done this differently? Or taking a pause before you respond and think like, is there a way to respond to this from a higher way? Just work with yourself through it and try, but don't judge yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not a light switch thing. Like you can't just
Mm-hmm.
say like, oh, I'm just going to be kind and be namaste and then walk out and think like, of course you're going to be triggered. Like,
Yeah.
it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
But the more you try, the easier it becomes to be in those states. But judging yourself through it is not going to help you.
I think a good question that would I like to ask questions that give me the correct why to make things more ingrained.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe even starting from the foundation of asking, why do I want a spiritual practice?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a very investigatory question that will give you it will just give you so many answers and like so many ways of like starting to understand yourself and why a spiritual practice is something worthwhile.
I'm glad that you say that, because it reminds me of how so many people, once they do want one, they don't know what to do or like which practices would work for them or what to try. So, for example, like if you are someone that's like, yeah, I want to either start a practice or I want to go deeper in my practice. And if someone suggested meditation, perhaps you go like, yeah, no, I don't think that's for me, even if you've never tried it, right? Because of what ideas you may have around it. So I want to ask you specifically, Tiffy, two things that I know you practice: energy work and meditation. Why, or not why, yeah, maybe why did you start either one of those? But more so, I want to know, how do those practices help you in your everyday, just like life out in the world?
Mm-hmm. Boy, those are loaded questions. So, why do I practice meditation? Initially, I got into meditation because of anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
and it was physiological. I was having physiological responses to my anxiety, and I had had several doctors try to give me anti-anxiety drugs and antidepressants, and I was like, nope, I know we're capable of this. I just don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
So I was exploring meditation for self-healing purposes, because I know that our bodies are self-healing, and I know there was a way to do it without having to put these pharmaceuticals in my body that, yes, they are helpful to a lot of people, but also like it just scared me. It wasn't something I was on board with. And I was like, I want to support my body and being able to do this. So that's why I got into meditation. And then the energy work kind of just came at a time that was perfectly aligned with me hitting a ceiling with a therapist. So I'm all about therapy. I think that we all need it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very supportive to our mental health and stability. But the therapist I was with was great, and she actually really helped me with my anxiety. She gave it a name. She made me aware of it. So her in alignment with the meditation was really great. But with her, at one point, I'd hit this ceiling where I was like, oh, like I outgrew her,
Mm-hmm.
and I hit a max of what our relationship was able to help me with. So then I found Reiki. Reiki came into my life right at that time, and I kind of made that shift because then Reiki started becoming my therapist, because it started showing me how to understand my own energy, and
Mm-hmm.
our thoughts and emotions are energy. So it was helping me to really understand and pick apart on my own what I've already known. But it just was really the mirror that I needed, because it was a mirror of myself. It wasn't a mirror of another trained professional human being that was helping me work through this stuff. It was like, here you go. This is where the real work is, you know? So it was kind of like a, a layered stepping stones of getting to a place of understanding why I needed these practices.
Yeah. So the meditation, you said it started because of the anxiety, but
Mm-hmm.
after practicing, like how has it helped you just in your regular life?
In my regular life,
How do you take it off the mat?
how do I take it off the mat? Um, the meditation, I see meditating like a muscle, right? You got to lift weights to make your biceps strong. Well, you have to keep on meditating in order to make your reactions to things strong. So
Mm-hmm.
circumstances or experiences that would initially, my reaction was anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Well, meditation helped me to not have the reactions that I normally would have. And
Right.
understanding my energy gave me an understanding of like, this is energy that's going to be mixing with my energy. How do I understand that? And how am I able to see the situation more clearly
Mm-hmm.
from a comprehensive non-personal objective perspective, from an objective perspective versus like Tiffany's experience objective.
Right. And then the energy work, even though it was helping you to like, you know, hold the mirror for yourself and acknowledge different parts of you energetically, was there a way that that also translated like out in your daily interactions and how that supported you or supports you even still?
It makes me aware of however I'm wearing my energy or putting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I can see direct correlations to other people's energetic behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So it really forced me to take responsibility of how my energy was going to affect a room or somebody else or a situation.
Totally. Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. That's like, yeah. So I'll go back to meditation really quick. For me, I started meditation for the exact same reason. Actually, meditation and Reiki were both a way to help with anxiety. And that's why I started both. But then for me, meditation, how it really became a part of my practice beyond sitting there and meditating is it helped me to become more observant, like, but observant from more of a neutral space. So like when I am engaging with other people or I am out in the world, when I do feel things trigger me, or again, acknowledging my thoughts, like it happens quicker, real time. And I use things like breathing techniques that I use in meditation to, you know, slow my roll and like temper whatever emotion is starting to feel like it's going to erupt. And so I use the practices that I do with my eyes closed, I use them when I'm out walking around with my eyes open, you know, like I'm meditating in motion type of thing. And it does help a lot with not only checking my perspective of things, but also my responsiveness. And then with energy work, I think you totally, that spoke to me. That's one of the biggest things I appreciate about what Reiki has done is it has helped me to have deeper understanding of myself, yes, but totally expanded this knowing of responsibility for the energy I bring and am the energetic impression that I'm leaving anywhere I go. Like whether I speak or not, I could go into a store and not speak to anyone, but I'm very aware that my energy and what I'm vibrating out can impact everyone that walks by me, you know, to the point where it's not even just my non-physical, what do you call it, broadcast. It's also like I'm hyper aware of my face. And I know if I look at someone, I make even if I feel like crap, I consciously make a choice to not let that come through my eyes to a total stranger, because those things impact people, you know, like you ever see someone and it looks like they're like mean mugging you and you don't know them. And it kind of hits you like, oh my God, what the hell are they looking at? But the truth is they're probably thinking about something in their own day that has nothing to do with you. Right. So because of these practices, I've become very accountable and take full responsibility to my expression on all levels, physical and non-physical. So that also helps me with, you know, practicing things like Namaste and like trying to be more mindful of my level of kindness to myself and others. But again, being honest as hell with myself when I'm not doing any of that, you know?
Yep. Yeah. There was a point while you were talking that something came up around this idea of when we take responsibility for our energy, and if our emotions come up and we're angry or like reactive, and you were talking about how you take a breath and you kind of like work that out. So something was coming up in my mind about how there's a lot of talk out there about like being true to your emotions. But I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the bridge to these two things. We do need to be true to our emotions, but like yelling and screaming at somebody, and you can be angry, but if you're not sitting and taking that moment to think about what that emotion is inside of you and why you're being triggered that way, like you were saying, taking a moment to just breathe, because I think that can be misinterpreted as like being walked all over. I know I struggle with that, you know, because a lot of times I want to stand up for what's right and like let you know that this is what hurt me, or I feel, in order for like in the future me not to carry that energy that's defensive. Am I making sense?
Yeah. No, it totally makes sense.
And that's where the spirituality and the practices come in, because for me to take that breath and let it go and do what it takes to readjust my energy from an interaction like that, it's very hard, but also the reward is not feeling like shit from being reactive. And in a society where we're told like either to stifle our emotions or to work them out, there's this next level of like when you're really putting into practice your spiritual principles, there's just a deeper understanding of the emotions always come from you.
Yeah, well, I think what you're saying, I mean, I think it speaks to having an awareness and having a clear distinction between your emotion and your behavior. Because, like, for example, you know, something could make you sad and something can make you mad. And being true to your emotion is to admit that. Like, you know, like if something makes me sad, I can admit that I'm sad, and I can, to myself even, and I can cry if I need to cry. But if I feel like if I don't manage my behavior and I just, you know, lash out at somebody else, that's also, you know, part of, I think, being true to your emotion. I think you should add to that being responsible to your emotional response. Because, yeah, I mean, you can admit and be angry and mad and sad and all of those things, but how you behave out of those emotions, I think that really matters too. So heck yeah, be true to them, be honest, but also know that you're responsible to how you respond from that space.
So you just linked it together for me. I feel that the spiritual practices help us manage our behaviors better, rather than just letting the emotions kind of fly, because I've witnessed a confusion, you know, in this day and age where there's self-improvement and, you know, therapists and therapy work. And I've seen therapy work being applied, but maybe not in a manner that we would think being supported by spiritual principles. I think that a lot of times the therapy work isn't fully understood.
Well, there's different schools of thought around it, right? I mean, that's another thing too. I mean, different people, even in the realm of therapy, there are different therapeutic practices, and like one therapist to the next will tell you to deal with your emotions in totally different ways, right? Like some people tell you to like hit a pillow with a bat, and other people tell you go journal. Like, and it's the same even in this realm. But what you're saying too reminds me of a really big one is, especially with what you're talking about, true to your emotions. I personally believe, and don't anyone get their panties in a bunch, this is just my point of view, respectfully, is, you know, when people get angry, right? So, I'm sorry, a text message came on my computer screen. When people get angry, and you know, it could feel like a volcano erupting inside of you, and people tend to like lash out, like yell, scream, say terrible things, right? And what we're saying, like in this practice, is it would be like you feel that volcano erupting, but instead of erupting, you are consciously aware of that feeling, but instead of screaming and yelling and saying terrible things, you restrain from that and really work out in your own space, like, whoa, what am I really feeling? What's really going on? What do I truly want to say? And can I say it from a space of calm? Maybe I need to walk away and take 5 so I can get myself together and work through my own process before I unleash this beast on another person, right? Now, some people will say, well, that's not being true to your emotion because that's stuffing and repressing. But that's not stuffing and repressing, because you're going to give yourself an opportunity to work through it. And that's where the responsibility for our behavior comes in. And I say this from my own experience of, heck yeah, I get mad. And sometimes I want to unleash the beast. But I know because of my practice, that's not going to serve what I say I want to live by. So yes, it feels like stuffing because I'm not letting the volcano erupt, but that's not bad for me because I'm acknowledging that there's a volcano. And then I take myself aside and really be mindful and thoughtful about, why is this volcano erupting? What is really hurting me? What am I really bothered by? I have to be 1,000% honest with myself, and sometimes 1,000% honest with another person, which we often bypass in our anger. We just like spew out things we think our ego is trying to protect ourselves, and it's not even really honest and vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
So it's more true, actually. You're being more true to yourself, where you step back and go like, what is actually coming up for me, without me being defensive, without me feeling like I have to like stab them with my words. What is the truth for me? That's the most vulnerable you could be. And then you may be able to express yourself, communicate what was coming up without the volcano erupting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was so wrought with so much good information.
Oh, yay!
Brilliant ideas. I really hope that like sinks in and like people understand that, because it's, cause that was what I was trying to do, is clear up the confusion between like this day and age of like being true to your emotions. Cause I see that getting mixed up a lot, and like, and processing it versus reacting.
Yep.
And you hit like every single thing that I wasn't able to articulate, that's like inside my soul, and I couldn't get it out of my mouth. So, but very importantly,
that's the joy of being freaking frack.
Yeah, it is. It's perfect. But, and that also sheds a lot of light on our topic of convenient spirituality, because having to process that stuff, like if you're not shoving it down and you're taking it and you're looking at it, like that's the quote unquote ugly side of spirituality. That's where the shadow work is. And that's also where it gets confused, where it's like, oh, I'm not spiritual if like these perceptively negative things are being worked on. No, that's the work, and that's what makes the practice stick.
Yes, it does.
And not bypassing it.
And that's the whole thing. And that's what makes it so challenging. I think, like coming back to where we started. I'm sorry, I had to Google freaking frack and make sure I wasn't calling us anything crazy. They were ice skaters, and it's okay. Yeah. They were like comedic. Okay, fine. Right. But it brings me back to the beginning of what we said about, you know, like the ideas of all of this. It sounds really nice. And I think a lot of us, you know, use these terms or wear the shirts or whatever we do because we genuinely, it resonates with that loving aspect of our true being, right? And it's really what we all want to experience. However, it does take work, and it is really hard, and it's not always pretty. Being kind and namaste and all those things, getting to that, you're going to see some ugly truths about yourself and your thoughts and your beliefs and your triggers, all of it, you know? And so I think it's, if nothing else, I hope people get from this that being a loving and kind person, truthfully, not just saying it, it's going to show you all of the parts of you that don't seem really loving or kind. Right, but that's the beauty of it, because you get to reveal and see these parts of you so that you can heal them and really move deeper into loving and kind and compassionate. And, you know, and when you really look at your own wounding and go like, oh yeah, God, I am judgmental. Where did I get that? Oh, my mom. Oh goodness. Well, why? Oh, how did that affect me? Blah, 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 blah. Then you're even going to be less likely to be that way, because now you understand that your behavior came from a space of like something that may have hurt you in the past. Am I making sense? Anyway. Totally. Yeah. Totally. So, I mean, it's but it all starts with like, I think what you said was good, like the why. If I know that the idea of be kind and namaste resonate with me, well, why do I want to put that into practice? And what would that look like honestly.
I was getting, as you were talking about that, I was getting this vision of like a long hallway, and like the hallway is super clean and tidy, but like inside these closets, it's just a big disaster. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
they're dirty, there's shit shoved in there.
Yeah.
And unless you open that door and see what's in that closet that needs to be cleaned out and moved,
Right.
then you're not even going to know it's there. So you need to open the closet and turn the light on and be like, oh, there's that stuff that's weighing me down, you know, like,
Yeah. And
and
like,
until you do that, or like even try to explore the known factors that there's things that are stopping you from doing this, then you're not going to know. If you keep those doors closed and the lights off and your hallway looks nice and clean, how are you going to know you have these things to work on?
but that's the thing too. I think goes back to what you were saying, like therapy or meditation, Reiki, like everything, there's something for everybody. So even
Yeah.
if there are certain things like you're afraid to admit or look at or touch or whatever, like perhaps you need support in that. And there are different methods and people and tools and whatever
Right.
that can help you. Um, it reminds me of like something just came up for me like 2 weeks ago. That was something that I had avoided for 27 years of healing wise. And it came up like unexpectedly. And it was like that split second of a moment of like, am I going to stuff this again? Or am I finally going to like
Yeah.
just be honest and be like, this is what it is? And so, and I did. And the most that happened was like tears came out of my eyes, but it was like a very like, and honestly, like I felt a little off for like 2 days, like energetically off, but I knew it was like that release that was happening. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, the point is something changes in us when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and open and just like get it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel about that?
I feel I feel good about this.
Yeah.
Um, did we talk about the tools?
Well, we talked about the ones that helped us.
Yeah.
But are there any other that you want to suggest?
Yes. Um, I always find it helpful to revisit something in a group setting.
Mm-hmm.
Be it like I went to a full moon circle a month ago, and that I hadn't been in a setting like that in a while. It was really helpful to strengthen my practices. Right now, I'm doing what we call a mandala practice for yoga, where I'm doing it 10 days back to back for 2-hour practices. And being in, I think we've talked about this, in a common vibration of a group that's all working towards the same goal and really trying to do something is very effective.
Yeah.
So if you're having trouble doing it on your own, um, and barring like working traumatic and you do need like a paid professional, like a therapist to help you, by all means, absolutely do that and start there. But if you don't feel you need that and you're trying to do it on your own, it's not enough, seek out support
Mm-hmm.
from, go into a group setting or find a different practice, maybe even that's new and inspiring, that will get you moving toward this.
That's a good one for people who want to try meditation as well. I mean, especially if you're just starting, it can
Mhm.
be hard to feel like you get into that groove if you're trying by yourself. But if you do it in a group, like go to a meditation group, the same, just like what Tiffany just said, like there's something about being in that energy and being in that connectedness that oftentimes helps people to just like click into that space much easier. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. And I had but then also recognize too, the responsibility lies in discipline. So if you're going to do a group setting, be disciplined. And I had this idea at one point just recently. We have a tendency to go to like maybe a retreat once a year, and like we feel all good and bright and shiny and great, and like I am going to apply all my spiritual practices. Just being honest with the fact, like, you're not going to, you're going to be hot on it for like a week or two, and then it'll slowly start to fall to the wayside. But like making your spiritual practices, even just like knowing I need to institute this into my life every quarter. Like, so every
Mm-hmm.
3 months, you're going to go plug back in even if it does fall to the wayside in between that time, like the more disciplined you are at making it however consistent you can, then the more these practices will just start to they will just start to unfold in your life, and maybe like clicking in a point you don't even like realize, like all of a sudden one day, like all that work just plugs right in and you're like, it's come together. I feel great.
Yeah. And I have to say too, again, like if you are, trying to be diligent in your practice and you do have days where you're just like, I just don't feel like it. Don't judge yourself. Like really, like that. I can't say that enough. Like, don't judge yourself in wherever you are in your process. And just like Tiffany, like how you said, you like fell off for a couple of days of your meditation. It's like, okay, well, honor where you are in those days where you fell off, but then like get back on the horse. You know what I'm saying? So like, in all of this, there will be, days where you feel like you're really good at it, at being kind, at namaste, at meditating, at doing all of your things. And there will be days where you're just like, F it all to hell. I don't feel like it. Just, and sometimes it's because stuff is moving. And sometimes it's because it's just, you're in another phase of the cycle where you're not supposed to be doing. You need to just be and like not output, input, which we've talked about recently.
That's a whole, we're talking about the input output. Yeah. But what you just said too, is I feel like it was another topic also. But now I forgot it. It was so good. It was so fleeting.
Well, listen back and we'll talk about it another week. So we hope that this conversation, as always, gave you some insight, gave you something to think about. We always want to share what has helped us, and hopefully it will support you or give you your own ahas. If you want access to bonus content or our weekly readings, go to patreon.com/MBE project. And
I thought you were going to sing that.
No, but starting
like
next,
you were going there.
No way. But starting next month, our MBE insiders also have an opportunity to meet with us live, like actually talk and interact, and we'll have our own little session that'll be not public. So you can go there and learn more about that too. Doesn't that start next month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
I know. I'm excited.
We need to talk about that.
I know. So I guess that's it for today.
Yeah, that's it. Namaste, everybody.
Yeah. Wait.
For real. What? I mean it. I can't see you, but I
like it. Maybe that should be like, that'll be like the new t-shirts, right? Namaste, and then in parentheses underneath, for real.
Yeah. Well, you can't give all your $1 million ideas. Yolanda, we got to trademark this stuff.
We just, this is ours. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll let you know when the t-shirts are available.
That's right.
Okay, well, bye everyone.
Bye.